Welcome students to the answer writing session. So today we are going to discuss two questions and we'll see how we should approach the questions. So these questions are from General Studies 1. To be specific, they are on geography. So let us start our discussion. So what is the first question? First question is assess the impact of global warming on the coral life system with examples. So they are asking you about the impact of global warming on coral reef. So we know about corals, we know about global warming, but here the important one is what the impact they are asking, and again with certain example. So this is a 2019 question. So how we can approach this question? Let us discuss. So in conclusion, as the two keywords are what? Global warming and coral system. So you can add in the introduction, you can write about either global warming or coral reefs. So what you can write? You can write the basic definition of global warming, which is given in your NCERT. What the definition says: global warming is a gradual increase in the Earth's temperature, generally due to the greenhouse effect. Caused by increased level of carbon dioxide, CFCs and other pollutants. So this is the basic definition of global warming. You can start with the basic definition in the introduction part, or you can write about coral reefs. What a coral reef is a marine ecosystem characterized by corals that create reefs, and reefs are made up of coral colonies bound together by calcium carbonate. So this can be your introduction. Definition can be your introduction, and in body part, we will write about the impact one by one. So point wise we will write. So what are the impacts? So first impact is what? First major impact of global warming is what? Bleaching. What is bleaching? In the lecture we have seen what is bleaching. Basically bleaching of coral means what? Death of corals. Coral, we know coral is a symbiotic association of what? Coral polyps, which are animals, and what? Zooxanthellae algae. So due to the increase in the temperature, we know coral require warm temperature. They cannot sustain hot temperature, or they cannot sustain cold temperature. Okay. So due to the global warming, the temperature is increasing, which is not feasible for the Zooxanthellae algae. So there is death of Zooxanthellae algae, and we know Zooxanthellae algae are important for the food production in the coral system. So when Zooxanthellae algae are died, the bleaching of coral, the entire coral reef system collapses, because what is the source of food? Zooxanthellae is the source of food, and if global warming, the temperature is increased, Zooxanthellae algae dies. So what you can write about the point: first is bleaching, second is fluctuations in the mineral composition. So don't just write bleaching. You need to explain in one or two lines how you can write. Bleaching is a phenomenon where the corals lose their distinctive color due to the loss of Zooxanthellae algae. These algae live in a symbiotic relationship, thus their death also leads to the death of corals. That is bleaching. First, that is the first effect. What is the second effect? Fluctuations in the mineral composition of oceans. Now, how this affects the temperature of oceans regulates the mineral contents present in them, such as magnesium and calcium. And we know corals, the outer layer of coral polyps. Coral polyps are the animal which give protection to the Zooxanthellae algae, and that protection is made up of calcium. That protection is made up of magnesium, and coral polyps absorb these minerals from the seawater. So if global warming is happening, the temperature is increasing, these mineral components, this mineral composition changes. So collapse of the coral colonies in Caribbean islands due to the mineral imbalance. Here in bleaching you can write about the Great Barrier Reef. You can write about the Great Barrier Reef, which are present to the eastern coast of Australia. So Great Barrier Reef. So immense amount of bleaching has happened in the last few years, and then here in the mineral composition you can write about the example of the Caribbean island, because in the question they are asking you examples also. They are not asking you impact only, but you need to add examples so that to cater to the demand of the question. Next, third impact, what you can write? Third impact you can talk about the nutrients. So the phytoplanktons are a major source of nutrients for the corals, and these sustain their life in optimum subtropical temperature, and without these organisms the corals cannot survive. Again, phytoplanktons are the basic food for the fishes, and if the global warming is happening, they will collapse also. So nutrients, then mineral composition, then bleaching can be the direct impact. Fourth impact can be indirect. You can write about what? Ocean acidification. So when global warming is happening, what is happening basically? The greenhouse, the concentration of greenhouse gases are increasing. Basically, the carbon dioxide is increasing. So, you know, oceans, the world's oceans are the biggest carbon sink. What they do? What do you mean? What do I mean by carbon sink? Carbon sink means they absorb the carbon. They absorb the carbon. So what happens when water is mixed with the carbon dioxide? It gives what? Carbonic acid. So that is basically what? Ocean acidification. Ocean acidity is increasing. The pH is decreasing. Acidity is increasing. Why? Because more and more amount of carbon dioxide is releasing in the atmosphere, and oceans absorb that carbon, and when absorbed in the higher concentration, the acidity of the ocean increases. So ocean acidification, you can write indirect effect of global warming. And due to what? Acidification, like the shell, we have learned the shell is made up of what? Calcium. So due to the acidification, what happens? The bleaching happens, the loosening of that shell happens, right? Weakening of that shell happens due to the ocean acidification. When the acidity increases, the quality of that shell deteriorates, right? So that affects the coral system. So this was the body. In conclusion, you can write again here. You can highlight the importance of coral. We know coral reefs just cover hardly 1% of the ocean surface, but they sustain 25% of the ocean's biodiversity, right? And when these are deteriorating, we are losing the immense amount of biodiversity on Earth. So that you can write, or you can write. So what? You can highlight the importance. So here you can highlight the importance of the coral in conclusion. So I always say no answer is perfect answer. So in conclusion, there are many ways you can write. Either you can write out the highlight of the coral system, how corals are important, how corals are deteriorating, and what we are losing. That you can write. Or you can write, we have written the impact. So corals are deteriorating. So in the conclusion, in short, you can write about how we can solve this problem of ocean impact of global warming. So urgent steps that can reverse the global temperature is a need of the hour, and this includes the methods like curbing carbon emissions, ozone protection, etc. So these are the some measures to reduce the global warming, and when global warming is in control, we can save our coral system. Or artificial reefs for the corals, that can be a solution. And then what? Developing temperature tolerant corals by genetic modifying GM technology. So that can be the conclusion. Don't write everything, choose any one thing and you can write in conclusion. Why? Because in answer, body is important. They are asking you about impact, so you can write for impact, explain them, give examples, write good introduction, definition, and in conclusion you can highlight the importance or you can give the solution as a way forward to it. So this was the question which dealt with the coral system asked in the year 2019. Next question is from 2016. So first question was from oceanography. This question is from climatology. What they are asking: discuss the concept of air mass and explain its role in the macro climatic changes. So here again there are two questions. You need to cater to both the questions. This is very important. You should show what they are saying. Discuss air mass. So write the definition of air mass. You can write about the classification of air mass or types of the air mass. You can write. So first question is over. In the second part of the question, what they are asking you to explain the role of air masses in the macro climatic changes. So these are the two parts. Now how we can write, how we can start? Basic, you can write about the basic definition. In introduction, you can write about the definition or certain facts if if the question is not having any particular definition, we can start with the current affairs, we can start with the fact, or any figure you can write. So here you can start with the definition, because air mass definition is given in the NCERT. What are air masses? Air masses are large bodies of air with distinctive characteristics in terms of temperature and humidity. So underline the word temperature, underline the word humidity, underline the word large bodies of air. So this is the basic definition of air mass. Second, they exhibit little horizontal variation. So in introduction, you can write about the definition and start with the body part, because they are asking you to discuss the air mass. So you can write few characteristics of air mass, and you can write the types or the classification of the air mass. So air mass exhibit little horizontal variation in temperature and moisture spread over a homogeneous area called as what? Source, and acquired its characteristics. So in the lecture we have learned in detail about air masses. When a land surface is there, suppose take an example of Sahara Desert, where the temperature is uniform, the topography is uniform. So what happens? Due to the uniform temperature, the air above it acquires the property of that land. So the air mass, the large amount of air which is above the Sahara Desert, will acquire the property. So it will have what? Little difference in the temperature, little difference in the humidity. What will be the humidity? Humidity will be very, very, very less. What will be the temperature? Temperature will be very, very high on Sahara Desert. There will be a air mass above Sahara Desert. Similarly, there can be a air mass, like for example, Indian Ocean. In Indian Ocean, the air mass will be what? Marine air mass. Marine air mass. On Sahara Desert, there will be continental air mass. So you can write also examples, right? Next, you can write about the classification of air mass. In short, you can write classification of air mass. So first is what? Based on temperature of air below the air mass. So air mass can be cold, air mass can be warm. On Sahara Desert, the air mass will be warm. On Siberia, the air mass will be cold. Second classification is what? Based on region. So based on region, we have various regions. When we divide the earth into various tropics, we have equatorial air mass near the equator, tropical air mass Sahara Desert, and what? Polar air mass. On Siberia or on Antarctica, we have what? Polar air mass, Arctic or Antarctic. Then third is what? Based on the humidity. So what is the humidity amount? Based on that, we can classify the air mass. Suppose if that air mass is on the ocean, so due to the high evaporation, more humidity will be there. So that air mass will be called as what? Moist air mass, or what? Monsoonal air mass. So basically in India, we get monsoon from the air mass from the Indian Ocean. So monsoonal air mass, or the continental air mass, or the dry air mass. So based on temperature, based on the region, and based on the humidity, you can classify the air mass. And now you can go ahead with the second question. What they are asking you to describe the macro, the impact of air mass on the macro climatic variation. So macro climatic variation means what? On a large basis. Micro is what? Small. Micro is what? Small. Macro means what? Large. On large, what are the impacts? So first you can write precipitation. If the air mass is coming from the ocean, it will carry lots of humidity. It will carry lots of humidity, and that can be a source for the precipitation on the continent. So here we know in India, this is India, this is Indian Ocean air mass. So in summer, this air mass comes like this, and we get what? We get water, we get monsoonal rainfall in 4 months, June, July, August, September. We get monsoon rainfall. So that can be example of precipitation. Second is what? Heat wave. Suppose, just imagine, you can draw the diagram also. So this is what? Africa. This is what? Europe. When the hot air mass over Sahara Desert, when it moves towards Europe, so entire Europe can face the heat wave consequences. On the other hand, when the Siberian region, when the cold air mass on the Siberia, when it moves westward, it will have cold wave effect on the entire continent of Europe. So that you can write. If even the polar air mass, when it descends to the Europe, the Europe will face what? Cold wave conditions. Next, extratropical cyclones. So extratropical cyclones, how they are generated? Tropical cyclones we know, low pressure, high pressure. On the other hand, extratropical cyclones, also known as temperate cyclone, how they are generated? They are generated to the frontogenesis. When two fronts, what is front? When warm air mass and cold air mass, when they collide, there is a formation of front. There is a the process is called as what? Frontogenesis, and that gives rise to the what? Wave kind of structure. Wave kind of structure on a temperate region. So here in this region we get what? We get wave cyclone. Wave cyclone is also called as what? Extratropical cyclone. And due to the extratropical cyclones, this region gets rainfall. This region gets precipitation. So precipitation, heat wave, cold wave, extratropical cyclone. So don't just write these words only. You need to explain. You can give the examples like I told you, or if you have time, you can also draw a diagram for each one of these effects. Right? So these are the fourth effect. So in first part, we talked about the definition of air mass, classification of air mass, few characteristics of air mass, and in second part, we have talked about the macro climatic variations to the air mass. And in conclusion, what you can write? You can write how global warming is affecting the air mass. The air masses are becoming extreme. The air mass above Sahara Desert is having more and more temperature. So Europe is going to be face more and more heat waves. Then again, Indian air mass, more heat, more evaporation, more humidity. So that air mass will have more amount of humidity, and the India will get more monsoonal rainfall, intense rainfall, torrential rainfall you can get. So you can write the impact of the global warming on the air mass. That is what? Creation of extreme air masses means what? More humidity. More humidity. Why? Because the increase in the temperature. When the temperature is increased in the atmosphere, the humidity level also increases. So more humidity means what? More rainfall. And when there is more rainfall, the chances of floods increases. Chances of floods increases. Or on the other hand, you can write about the warm continental air mass, for example Sahara air mass, where the temperature is more. When the temperature is more, the chances of heat waves increases. Chances of heat wave increase. Chances of heat wave increase. So in the conclusion, in short, you can write the impact of global warming on air mass. So these were the two questions for this session. I hope you understood how to approach the question, you understood the basic demand of the question, and you also understood the basic concepts behind it. Thank you.